Hello again. I'm Dave Syme with EB-5 Investment Advisors with today's installment of EB-5 Information. Once again, we look at a lot of different projects on behalf of our immigration attorneys and our clients. And one of the things that we run into is the vast difference between various regional centers. Many people think that all the regional centers are pretty much all the same. The answer is they are not. They are dramatically different from each other. And I wanted to go into some of the differences and some of the criterion that we use to look at varying regional centers. For starters, there are probably, as of making this video, something on the order of 250 regional centers. There's a lot of talk that that number is going to fall off quickly. Many of the regional centers were generated simply to take advantage of a single opportunity. In other words, they found some great development project that they think is a winner. They went through a terribly extended process. It's taking into years these days to get a project in a regional center approved. But they're pretty much one-trick ponies, and that's all they're ever going to be. They have essentially no track record. They don't claim to have any track record, and they were formed to do a project. Once again, just by way of general education, there's a lot of differences between a regional center backed project and one that is not affiliated with a regional center. The primary difference is that a regional center gets to take advantage of indirect job creation. In other words, ancillary outside vendors, people like that aren't directly connected to the project. Whereas a project that is being managed by a private group does not have the opportunity to take advantage of indirect. They can only count the direct jobs that are created. So regional centers have that kind of as a built-in advantage. But there's another reason that regional centers are kind of great. And that is, many of them have been around for as many as 10 years, 15 years, some even 20 years. And a lot of these regional centers have done a great job. They've got a phenomenal track record, some of them. Some of them have had hundreds and even thousands of 526s granted, and even many of them have visas that they've actually won. They've been around so long, they've been through the entire process that takes years, but they've been around and they've actually completed and gotten people their permanent visas and so forth. So there are some that really can brag about a heck of a track record and big numbers. And that's a strong inducement for going with some of these people, because they've been through sometimes 5, 10, 20, 30 projects already, that they've been all the way to the beginning, all the way through to the end. They've successfully completed over and over again. It's a repeatable formula, and that gives a lot of security to people, as opposed to an individual developer who wants money for one project and has literally no track record in the EB-5 space. All they have is a project, and they promise they'll do a good job. The same would go for a regional center that can't show any track record. Again, you might, they're brand new. They haven't done a project. Now, let me argue the other way. There are some regional centers that have so much power and have been around so long and have such a strong track record that they've begun, in our opinion, to become a little bit too used to having things their way. A lot of them have spun off their own development companies to build their own projects. And I always think that a newly developed in-house group who was kind of opportunistically assembled for the reason of taking advantage and squeezing more dollars out of every deal may or may not be as good as an outside contractor that has been picked as best of breed, and maybe a 2 or 3 generation deep family that has a deep tradition of building projects like that and has a heck of a track record of building things. So, sometimes picking from contractors where that's their business, that's what they do best, is a better option than having a homegrown one that was assembled for the purpose of doing these projects that may have no track record, that may have no actual solid experience. So some of the regional centers have so much control over the marketplace that they've begun to take advantage of their position to and they get sloppy. They start doing things that aren't necessarily in the best interests of the investor, but are rather in their best interest to try to capture more and more of the revenue stream that they see in every project. One other interesting development in the regional center space has been state-owned regional centers. The plus of that is that they have sort of the state's reputation on the line. And it's not just a bunch of entrepreneurs, it's actually a state-organized thing to promote commerce in that state. There can be tremendous advantages to that in that there is stability, there is a municipal kind of control, checks and balances, the reputation of the state government is at stake, and you know you're not dealing with a fly-by-night group of guys that just got assembled to take advantage of the opportunity, but rather you have a solid state-managed and overseen operation, on the one hand. On the other hand, you know darn well that, maybe it was Vermont, but anyway, one of those states over in the East Coast, is that the flip side of that argument is they're probably only going to present projects that are in their state, which dramatically narrows their options, and there may be better opportunities in other parts of the country, but they're not going to support them because they're there to promote commerce in their state. So on the one hand, you get the solid affiliation with a state. On the other hand, you may not see as many opportunities, and they may be picking from a smaller group of opportunities to exploit. So there are pluses and minuses to the state-owned enterprises, and it's one of those things that you pretty much have to look at on a case-by-case basis and try to evaluate. Finally, we should be aware that regional centers are not the only way to go. There are a lot of individual developers out there who are putting together projects and are making those available to EB-5 investors. In some cases, those can be great projects. Those can be very profitable projects, very safe projects, put together by very reputable groups. Not in the context of a regional center, but just a standalone project that has wonderful pedigree, that has wonderful opportunities, that has where the developer is putting in a lot of skin in the game, where they've got a project that really looks like it can render a lot of value. So in some cases, outside the regional center model, you're not necessarily as hidebound by all the bureaucracy, you're not as, sometimes you get far better projects that are not within the context of a regional center. So it's important not to just go for the regional center every time and say that's the only part of the world. Because remember, the main advantage of a regional center is they get to count the indirect job creation. In some projects, not a big deal. If you're talking about a hotel, if you're talking about nursing homes, the individual developers can deliver great numbers. They don't need the indirect job creation, and sometimes you find better projects with the independents than you do with the regional centers. So it's important to look at the whole marketplace and not fixate on just regional centers. Okay, people, that's it for this episode. I hope that helps you get a little better perspective on regional centers and some of the pluses and minuses, some of the smaller ones and the bigger ones, and the pitfalls and the advantages. Anyway, feel free to visit us on the web, eb5investmentadvisors.com. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to get in touch with us at info@eb5investmentadvisors.com, or give us a ring, 925-565-4208. And remember, all we do is find projects, do research, due diligence on them, and help our investors get into the best available projects. Thanks a lot. We'll see you in the next episode.